Welcome to Tuesday. Hope you're having a good one wherever you happen to be right now, whether you're driving around, listening in your car, whether you're watching on the YouTube channel, whether it's Irish Breakdown or Sports Radio, WSBT. Always glad to have you with us, ready to talk some Notre Dame football. The Fighting Irish taking on Purdue, hosting Purdue this Saturday at Notre Dame Stadium. After making the trip to West Lafayette last year, the Fighting Irish will host the Boilermakers this year. No word yet, Jesse, on whether or not that big dumb drum will be making the trip from West Lafayette to South Bend. Haven't heard any rumblings on that so far.
Hopefully they've just given that up, you know?
I know.
Hopefully we've just moved on from that. And honestly, as hard as it might be, I think we as fans have to move on. Put everything in the past and look forward to hopefully getting some W's, stacking up a lot of W's in the next 10 weeks, because that's what it's ultimately going to take week by week. So I'm excited. A lot of pain watching back the tape from the game. A lot of good, but obviously some really bad things as well.
Very bad, Jesse. Very bad things happened Saturday night. We'll be talking about it in just a few minutes, the whiteboard portion of the show, but we are going to start as our new Tuesday tradition, our new Tuesday custom, Shamrock Up, Shamrock Down. It's our stock check of Notre Dame coming out of their game each week. Is anyone's stock lower than Chris Ash's right now?
I would say Chris Ash is pretty low, and correct me if I'm wrong, but number 7, Stroman, that's his name, right? That's who wears number 7.
Stroman.
Yep. Jalen Stroman's stock is obliterated at this point. I think the way that we saw Tay Johnson play this past week, I think we should no longer see Stroman as much.
Ooh, man.
He was just horrible.
Bad day to be Jalen Stroman. Like, safety help was
it was safety help, playing in man coverage, whatever you wanted to do, he didn't do any of it right. And I'm willing to say he cost them at least 14 points in this last game.
Because that's the crazy thing. We talk about it, Vince and I obviously talked about it yesterday. The fact that you had a quarterback come into Notre Dame Stadium. We talked last week about Marcel Reed's ability. I didn't think he would have the ability to complete short passes and move their offense down the field. He didn't have to, because he completed 46% of his passes, but still threw for 360 yards.
Yeah,
and
he didn't have a good day. He did, but he didn't. Like he
in
graded,
a different way. Yeah.
He graded out bad.
There were more passes that he could have hit. He could have had a 500-yard passing day if he hit everything that was out there for him.
Had a lot of turnover-worthy throws as well. That's got to be the hardest pill to swallow. Is Reed played like a C. You could probably range it from a C- to C+ game, and you would think he was the Heisman frontrunner.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about for good reason, his running ability, and that's what scared, I think, most of us more than anything. But it really wasn't until that last drive, their last game-winning touchdown drive, where he hit that run to convert a first down, where his legs really came into play. That was really, all things considered, that turned out to be a non-factor for Texas.
Almost feels like Notre Dame really geared up for the run, because that's what it was last year, really a run-heavy game on both sides of the ball. And it was evident because the linebackers and the secondary, they were biting a lot on play action. And like you said, they were getting sucked up. And Marcel Reed, and we talked about this going into the week, he looks to pass. He is a pass-first quarterback, and there was not a lot of design quarterback runs or plays where he's taken off on the edge, maybe like one or two like you were saying. But, I mean, he wanted to throw the ball. And if you don't get pressure and you let him sit back there, I mean, the result is what happens. And that's what we saw on Saturday. So just really frustrating watching the tape back.
NH asking in the YouTube chat, doesn't Ash coach safeties?
Sure does.
As Nate Bargatze would say, nobody knows. Don't really want anybody to know who's doing what, it seems like. Because
we're talking about
defense. What's that? Carson Hobbs.
A lot of people are talking about Carson Hobbs as well, and I get that, but he's a little bit younger, and I just, again, in my opinion, Stroman cost them 2 touchdowns, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But the thing about Stroman, too, is he's just got more experience. It's just inexplicable, in my opinion, at this point, the way that he's playing. And seeing Tay Johnson on the field after Don Schuler's just heinous ejection, he played really well. I thought he held his own, and if that's the type of play we're going to get out of Stroman, I need to see less and less of him.
I can't disagree with that. And as for Carson Hobbs, I mean, look, Devontae Smith was injured during pregame warmups and couldn't go. So, I mean, the options were limited. I think that we were all, after watching the Miami game, thinking, well, there probably needs to be more Devontae Smith. And then it became, from where I was sitting, it became Devontae Smith watch. It was like, is he even playing? What's going on? He's on the sidelines. He's in full uniform, but he's not playing. And of course, we found out in the post game that he apparently hurt his ankle and was not able to go. So, that Hobbs it is what it is. It was what it was, I guess. But at the end of the day, whether we're talking about the secondary, the linebackers, the defensive line, the name on the billboard for the defense is the new defensive coordinator, Chris Ash. And quite honestly, I can't remember anyone. You probably have to, I know we keep throwing this name around. You probably have to go back to 2016 since anyone's stock was as low for Notre Dame as what Chris Ash's stock is right now after these first 2 games and after giving up 488 yards against Texas A&M Saturday. So
I don't want to go too deep into this or open this can of worms too much, but I made this comment to you over the weekend. This is to date, and obviously, this is hindsight, so whatever, but Notre Dame is 0-2, and I think you can place about 75% of the blame on the defense, maybe even 80% of the blame on the defense. There was this worry that Mike Mickens wasn't ready, or that, maybe he needed more experience, whatever it might be. I just, at this point, I'm confident enough to say, could it have really been that much worse to go with Mickens at this point?
No.
And just keep everything, as the same as possible? Because I think that we were, kind of misled, because all offseason Ash talked about, well, this isn't going to change, and that we're just kind of enhancing. And you look at Notre Dame play, especially in the secondary, and that's supposed to be one of the stronger points of this defense, where you have all Americans and some of the best talent you've ever had, but they're getting gouged. And I just don't understand how rolling the dice with the guy who's been an analyst in the NFL for the Jaguars and hasn't been a true defensive coordinator or been in the college game for X amount of years, was that head and shoulders a better of a decision than what Mike Mickens could have given you.
He wanted someone with DC experience. Ash checked that box. He wanted someone with head coaching experience. Ash checked that box, because when you think of Al Golden, he had both of those things as well. He obviously was part of a national championship winning team when he was at Ohio State, even though he was co-coordinator with Luke Fickell. Wasn't completely, but he also had coordinated at some other places. So there were certain boxes that he checked. And,
I just think there were certain people that got into Marcus Freeman's ear.
There very well might have been. That
kind of boosted up their confidence in Chris Ash.
Yeah.
Because this goes back to Ohio State, in my opinion. There's a lot of roots that go back to Ohio State.
Correct.
I think someone gave Marcus Freeman just a vote of confidence and said, he's worth the roll of the dice, essentially.
Yeah. all those Ohio State connections with Urban Meyer being at the top of that list. And then you had, Fickle in there as well, who obviously Marcus Freeman was very close to when he coached for him at Cincinnati. And just, yeah, all that intertwining seems to have had a lot of influence. And now you've got a big hole to dig yourself out of. They've got to figure it out in a big hurry. So Ash stock low. So what about Marcus Freeman? Like where his stock falls in all of this after 2 close losses to 2 ranked teams. It's funny because, like from a national perspective, you do still hear some national people talking about, well, Notre Dame, they've lost, but they've lost by a total of 4 points to 2 ranked teams. And now those 2 teams are both ranked in the top 10, Miami and Texas A&M. So it feels like they're looking at it a little bit differently, even though there are all these obvious defensive lapses that's really to blame for this. Because as I've said, like if the defense plays even half as well as it played last year, then I think Notre Dame wins both of these games, 2 games that they lost by a total of 4 points. So where does Marcus Freeman's stock fall in all of this, do you think?
Yeah, so I guess you kind of have to preface with not everyone else is playing Villanova and FIU right now. And
yes,
that's
if I had Vince's bell, I would ding it. Ding, ding, ding. That's right.
And so that's not an excuse, but I think it's a preface into, everyone's going to have to play the Miamis and the Texas A&Ms. Not everyone is playing them back-to-back weeks to open the season with a new quarterback and a new defensive coordinator. But those things should have been, and defensively, those things should have looked better. And I think situationally, there's some stuff in both games that Marcus Freeman could have done a little bit better. We'll get into that. I think it showed itself more during the Texas A&M game. But coming off a national championship, winning all those games in a row like Marcus Freeman did last year, I know the front of the schedule is hard. No one said it wasn't. You lost by 4 points combined to 2 top 10 teams. You had to win one of them as a head coach. You had to win one of them. And so, given some of the situational decisions they made, and to be honest, I'm going to factor in the decision to hire Chris Ash in general, because I think a different defensive coordinator at least gets you 1-1 and potentially 2-0, like you're saying. So that is still Marcus Freeman is at the head of that decision at the end of the day still.
Right.
So I have to be stocked down because of some situational lapses, and because at the end of the day, Marcus Freeman had the final sign-off to bring Chris Ash in. And again, I believe defensively they are to blame for 75%, 80% of these 2 losses at the end of the day. So I have to be, stocked down in right now today, Tuesday, after being 0-2, I have to be stocked down on Marcus Freeman.
You're still the head coach of an 0-2 team, regardless of what the level of competition was that you played. And you got one of those games at home, because again, you can write off a lot of things with Miami, road game and all that different stuff opening up the season. Look at what Miami did to USF over the weekend. Like, they are looking legit right now. So from a Notre Dame perspective, you have to, as much as you might hate Miami, you have to be cheering for Miami. Now you have to be cheering for Texas A&M the rest of the way as well. But just like I said, Chris Ash's name is on the marquee of the defense. Marcus Freeman, as I've always said, as the head coach, his name is on the marquee of the program. He hired the guy who is floundering in front of everyone in primetime TV 2 games in a row to open the season.
Let me ask you a fun question. I saw this floating around the interwebs today. There are people, not even people, I'll go direct to the source. Barstool, Big Cat, everyone knows who that is. There was a discussion today, and he made the argument that Notre Dame is in a better situation after week 2 this season than compared to last season. You're 0-2, but you've lost 2 games.
I've heard that. Would you rather be 0-2 against 2 ranked teams,
top 10 teams,
than 1-1 against, with a bad loss, with a home loss to a MAC team? Is that kind of the
yeah? I mean, they were 28-point favorites. You just came off the Texas A&M win. And after that NIU loss last season, everyone questioned whether or not Marcus Freeman was still the guy to be the head coach. There were people who said he needed to be fired. There were people who thought he couldn't win, take them through the rest of the season. And he turns around and obviously goes to a national championship. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not completely disagreeing with the argument. And Notre Dame, as crazy as this sounds, there is still a high opportunity for them to achieve the playoff goal, right? Like, it's too far down the road to think about right now, but 10 straight wins, Miami's the ACC champ. Somehow Texas A&M maybe ends up in the, like, if Miami and Texas A&M both end up in the playoffs, and those are Notre Dame's only 2 losses, their first 2 games of the year by a combined 4 points, and they run the table, there's going to be a legitimate argument for Notre Dame, right? And so I'm trying to spin this the best way possible that this is the end of the world, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
But you've backed yourself into a corner for the second straight year. No matter how you look at it, whether it's 1-1, whether it's 1-1 with a bad loss or 0-2 with 2 losses to 2 ranked teams, your back is still against the wall now. You've put yourself in a situation where you have to win out. There is no more margin for error. And, again, we're going to get specifically into the defense here in a minute and, just see kind of, how ugly maybe it is. The biggest difference, 1-1 last year with a loss to NIU versus 0-2 this year with 2 losses to ranked teams. You gave up 29 total points in those first 2 games combined last year against Texas A&M and Northern Illinois. You gave up 21 points in the second quarter alone to Texas A&M Saturday night. So again, the biggest difference, like, you can look at it as, well, this is, just on paper, 1-1, you went on the road and beat a ranked team. You lost at home to an unranked team. 0-2, you lost to 2 ranked teams. The biggest difference is still the biggest wart that you have. And that's the fact that your defense can't stop anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't matter because this isn't a national championship defense like last season.
Yes, exactly.
And unless these things get corrected, it really won't matter because, I mean, look at how good that defense was last year and some of the struggles they faced, late in the season. It could really blow up. Like, they are the bottom of the bottom in a lot of defensive metrics right now.
Let me ask you this as we continue our Shamrock Up, Shamrock Down. Did you see anyone's stock rise in the in the Texas A&M game?
Yeah, I mean, this is the second easiest question you've asked me behind Chris Ash. CJ Carr, man, dude's a baller. You put up the amount of points that you did on the road against Miami, and then to come home and put up, that amount of lead an offense that scores, what was it, 40 points or something, 38 points at the end of the day. Whatever it was, that should be enough to win. And we're talking about your first 2 career starts against 2 really good teams, ranked teams. I mean, CJ Carr is, I've just been nothing but flat out impressed. The guy is a baller. The moment is not big for him. Notre Dame has at least found its quarterback of the future. And that's I think the biggest thing that we can take
away. The future end of right now.
Yeah. And feel good about, with everything that's going on, 0-2, the defense in bad places, people are going to gripe about, the wildcat stuff that Denbrock installed for the week. If there's one thing that is just really, really good and promising, it's CJ Carr.
CJ Carr, I completely agree with that. For the second week in a row, you had to have points. He leads them down the field, and he gets points. CJ Carr's stock is up with a bullet. Some good suggestions here in the chat that I'll get to in a minute. I still, it might only be incremental, but I would say Jeremiah Loves is up after 23 carries and 94 yards rushing, and he also had 4 receptions for 53 yards. The only thing that I'll say about Jeremiah Love, though, that would be a knock, doesn't it feel like he's just trying to hit a home run every time that he touches the ball right now? Or didn't it feel like...
I do think he's a little bit, eager, home run happy, antsy and that sort of stuff. And I just think that kind of comes from the offseason hype of him being that home run hitter playmaker. But, I mean, I think to your point, you could say Jeremiah Love stock up, but if we're going to say that, you got to say Jadarian Price as well, because I thought he played a heck of a game as well.
That's a great point. I didn't think about
this weekend.
Said it, and yeah, I agree with it as well. Bouncing back after the fumble against Miami, Price's stock is definitely back on the rise. The backfield in general, they found out that they can use those guys, which is great. But again, it's like you might have to lean on them even more now, because you want to limit possessions that you're giving the other teams because of the state of your defense.
Yeah. It's a tough line to toe right now, because not only are you trying to, score points, but you're trying to give your defense a break too and keep them off the field as much as possible, just because of how much of a liability that they were. And the thing is like the defense did show some flashes of playing some good football. It's just like when it's bad, it is really bad.
Michael says he wouldn't rule out NC State, Pitt, or Syracuse.
All those teams are looking really solid right now.
Yeah, I mean, NC State I would put at the top of the list for me. Syracuse, I'm still kind of in the who have you played.
Yeah, they dominated Colgate.
Yeah, and UConn for that matter. I mean, Angeli's playing well. I'll give him that. But like the one that scares me the most of those three is still NC State. And then, as Jonathan said in the YouTube chat, so does Purdue end up ranked if the defense plays that bad?
I mean,
against them. I mean, it's like, and let's just not even go there, because like that's just waters that you don't want to be treading in at this point. Stymie Snurdley says Tay Johnson's stock is up. Can't disagree with that. Jesse led off basically by saying Tay Johnson needs to play more now, especially considering you're not going to have a Don Schuler for a half, and that's like a completely different discussion. Archer says KVA. What did you think about Kingston Viliamo Asa's play Saturday?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I said I was watching him every play, and especially when I was kind of going through and watching again, I was looking at
more broken pass plays, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So, everyone's gonna say, well, KVA needed to be in there and playing man to man on that guy on the last play, except Drake Bowen. I'm not completely in that boat. Drake Bowen is still an incredible athlete, really good.
Jesse has a Drake Bowen man crush, so you're not going to convince him otherwise at this point. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not going to take him off the field in that situation. Like I said last week, KVA is playing really well.
Playing with his hair on fire, though, because of the somewhat, because he is in a rep share steer. Like every time he hits the field, he is a Tasmanian devil.
Well, and the thing is they're letting him play a little bit differently, honestly. Like Bowen and Snead are playing more traditional linebacker where they're making reads and reacting. It seems like when KVA's out there, they're just cutting him loose, They're not really giving him a ton of read and responsibility. It's you're getting to your point on the field, and that's really it. So I thought he did well in coverage. Like there were some times he split off into coverage and that sort of stuff. But I mean, yeah, KVA is playing well. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think I think people are wanting to say that he needs to replace like a linebacker out there. I just don't think it's to that point yet. And that's where I'm at.
Final thought before we move into some whiteboard here in a minute. The philosophy on buying stock, of course, is buy low, sell high. So with that in mind, whose stock you buying right now that you think you would be able to make a killing on at the end of the season when you sell it high?
I'm going to say Christian Gray on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
I think he's a really talented player. I think by the end of the year, he's a guy who's going to, be in draft discussions. I think that he's obviously been struggling a little bit, and we'll get into that, a little bit later in the whiteboard of why. But, some of it is self-induced. Some of it is obviously scheme-induced. But I know Christian Gray is a really good player. And I think his stock is a bit down right now, and I would be willing to buy it and sell it high as, Notre Dame now has the luxury of easing into some of these games where they can really, I think, get their feet underneath them, and it starts with Purdue. So I'll start with him on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive side of the ball, I mean, no one really sticks out quite yet.
Well, you're not supposed to stick out because you're buying low. So, I mean, you're basically saying these guys have a lot of work to do right now, so I'm going to buy their stock while it's sitting this low because I think that they're going to look that much better by the end of the season. So for that reason, I'll just go with – you can pick whoever you want on offense, but I'm going with the pass rushers. It's just got to get better. It just has to.
That's a really good one.
They've rushed 40 times so far, but they've got 3 total pressures. They've got 1 overall sack that was against Carson Beck and 5 total pressures through 2 games. So The pass rush, edge rushers, it has got to get better. So that's where I'm buying my stock low, because I think by season's end, it's like if it's not better, then again, this is just, we don't even want to go down that road at this point. Let's take a timeout. When we come back, we've got some whiteboard. Jesse is going to show us, I was going to say the good, the bad, and the ugly. Unfortunately, it might be just bad and ugly, but we'll see where some of the breakdowns were on the whiteboard as we talk a little X and O's, Notre Dame football after Notre Dame's loss to Texas A&M Saturday night, but the Irish host Purdue this Saturday afternoon at 3:30 at Notre Dame Stadium. And that means a relatively early start time for the game day crew coming up this Saturday. Out at the linebacker, coming up with more right after this. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Did a little Shamrock Up, Shamrock Down to start off the show. We're going to get into some Whiteboard, breaking down Notre Dame's defensive deficiencies. Don't have to look far for those, unfortunately, after Saturday night's game against Texas A&M. But Tim Growl did text me. The game day show will start at 11 a.m. and run until 2:30. Reggie Brooks among the guests for this week. So join him at the linebacker, 11 to 2:30 this week. I'm looking for, here it is. So I'm going to play this real quick before we start talking a little bit about the defense. Marcus Freeman asked at his press conference yesterday about where things have gone wrong with the defense. He talked about calls, scheme, execution.
It's the execution of what we're asking them to do. And if we're asking them to do things they can't execute, then we got to evaluate what we're asking them to do. And so, like I said, it's not a call. It's not a scheme. There's no perfect call, no perfect scheme. It's the ability to execute. And that, as I said, like, we've spent time figuring out the lack of execution, right? It's, if the answer was just call something different, we would do that. But it's like, okay, this is what we called, this is why we called it, why did it fail? And that's where you got to really eval what is the core of the failure in the execution, and that's what we've been doing.
All right, so there is Marcus Freeman. I just have a hard time understanding why, if the scheme that they are running is the scheme that Al Golden has been using for the last 3 years, which is essentially what Marcus Freeman said in another cut yesterday, why there is so much confusion about what they're supposed to be doing. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Jess. You're muted.
I do have a preamble that I'd like to get into before we do
preamble to the whiteboard.
So, I don't disagree with what Marcus Freeman is saying. There is obviously a lack of execution. And when you listen to, NFL coaches, and that's what I spent a lot of time watching, actually a good amount of NFL games over the last couple of days. Every coach is saying what Marcus Freeman says: execution, execution, execution. When things go wrong, it's about execution. And so I'm buying that. But I believe right now, after rewatching the film and kind of breaking down some of these big busted plays that happened against Texas A&M, I truly believe that the Notre Dame secondary doesn't have an identity right now. And I think last year, despite everyone talking about, well, they play so much man, they blitz, they need to figure out how to play zone, and use it situationally. At least last year's defense knew who they were, knew what they were good at, and could execute what they were good at. I think this season there's this hypothesis that they need to be able to be in more zone and zone. And so I think there's a conflict of, I don't think they know if they're supposed to be a man or a zone secondary. And I think that's leading to breakdown in technique and breakdown in execution, is there's just no overall confidence or identity for what they're good at or what they're supposed to kind of be at in a base situation.
And I think breakdown in communication probably as well, because there's even more communication required when you're playing zone.
Yeah, and I think what you have to also take a look at is, obviously more Schuler and Gray are coming back, but there are still a lot of new faces in the secondary that are rotating into more playing time. You have Carson Hobbs, Stroman, Luke Talich, Tate Johnson, some of these kind of nickel dime backup players. And so they're being thrown into the fire of the game speed, relatively quickly. So that's kind of where I'm at, is I don't think that they trust their technique in man coverage right now. Because I don't think that
you don't think they trust themselves in man either.
I think that there is so much confusion. There was probably a good amount of install over the summer with the zone stuff. I just don't think that they focused on what they were predominantly good at, and that's being a man defense. Like they are really good in man coverage, in my opinion. And we're gonna go through some plays. They had breakdowns in man coverage. It's not like they were getting burned in zone. And like you just didn't see that last year. You didn't see them get burned in man coverage or not be in the right spots during man coverage. And so, we can talk about the secondary, but I just think the defensive line isn't getting home. They're not getting sacks. Reed had 4 or 5 seconds to sit back there. The linebackers and safeties were getting sucked up in a lot of play action. So it's like it goes all around, but it goes back to bad fundamentals on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't understand how you lose so many of those good fundamentals from last year to this year.
All right, let's go to the whiteboard because we don't have a ton of time here. I mean, we've got a little bit of time, but I want to make sure that we get in some of the good stuff. So I hope you're starting off with something juicy to get us going here today. All right.
Yeah. So
you want me to describe what you've got up there? Go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay, so we're looking at Notre Dame's defense and Texas A&M's offense. What Texas A&M has is the quarterback Marcel Reed in the shotgun. The running back is offset to his left. He's got a tight end in a wing position to his right. He's got twin receivers to the right side, and the ball is on that hash mark, on the right hash mark, and he's got one receiver to the other side. And you've got on the outside receiver to the boundary side, you've got a cornerback over that receiver. You've got a corner over the receiver on the other side as well. And then you've got a safety, the responsibility of the slot receiver, it looks like, on the right side of the formation.
Yeah, so just to kind of set the scene here, this is in the first quarter. 9 minutes and 47 seconds are on the clock. This is a misrepresentation, but the ball is on Texas A&M's 14-yard line. It's 2nd and 6. Notre Dame had just given the ball up, this was after the block punt. I believe this is Texas A&M's second drive, again, on their own 14-yard line. Notre Dame is at a too high look right now, and what's going to happen is they're going to be playing, man coverage here. So I have a play. I have Concepcion circled. He's the number 2 wide receiver out to the
so he's
the
on the slot. He's in the slot. Is the slot on the right side. Okay.
The safety that is going to end up being responsible for him is Stroman. I have him circled. He's kind of playing center field, middle of the field right now. So what's going to happen here is pre-snap, Concepcion is going to go in motion across the formation, and just as he hits the left tackle, they're going to snap this ball. And when they snap this ball, the outside wide receivers are going to go straight vertical and clear out these quarterbacks who are playing man-to-man coverage. And as this play happens, Stroman is basically rotating down like a yo-yo because they're in man coverage. So as Concepcion goes across the formation, he is going to kind of come down and be his man-on-man player. At the snap of the ball, like I said, outside wide receivers are going vertical. That H-back that's to the trip side into the boundary is going to work his way across the formation and work into the flat, right? So that linebacker to the play side or the field side is going to be responsible. He's going to go into the flat and take him in man coverage. That's all fine and well. But what happens here is Concepcion crosses the formation. He's going to get beyond that H-back and kind of run like a 10-yard flood route. And what happens is Carson Hobbs just overruns this play in man-to-man technique. He bites on it really hard, and then Concepcion gets behind him. He catches the ball, and then I don't even know how, but breaks like 3 tackles. There was horrible tackling in open space, and then he goes on to score Texas A&M's first touchdown in the game. So again, man coverage, this is something that Notre Dame was just so proficient on last season. Hobbs comes downhill, and to be honest with you, it's just a breakdown of technique. He overbites on the flood route, and then Concepcion turns it up and goes vertical, and he's beat instantly. So again, I don't know how a team that could be so good at man coverage last season has such a fatal breakdown early in the game after a huge momentum play and blocking a punt and getting Texas A&M, inside their own 20-yard line for this second drive.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right.
So that was kind of big play number 1. So
the first of many, unfortunately. Yeah.
So let me get out of that screen and we can move on to the second screen here. hopefully, nope, not that one. Is it this one? I believe it's this one. Yes. Yes, it is. Okay. Can you see the screen again?
Yes.
Awesome. So we'll set the stage here again real quick. So ball is on the left hash on Notre Dame's 46-yard line. Marcel Reed is in shotgun. He has his H-back, or his tight end kind of in a wing position off to the right. Then he has a wide receiver out to the field side as well, kind of just by the numbers. And then he's got one wide receiver into the boundary who is also into the numbers. So I think first and foremost, what really upsets me about this play is Notre Dame has 7 defenders for 3 guys who ultimately end up running a route. And one of those routes is a running back into the flat. Like, Notre Dame has 7 players to guard 3 players in space, and one of them doesn't even run routes for a living. You know, like, what are we doing here right now? So what you're going to see is the far side wide receiver to the field side is going to get vertical, and then the wide receiver into the boundary is going to run a flood route all the way across the field to the field side. Running back is going to fake a handoff and slip through the line of scrimmage and get into the flat here. How Notre Dame is defending this is they're going man underneath and then 2 safeties over top. Both players on this play, corner and safety, I have no clue what their technique is, because 24 is playing corner, so Hobbs, and then Stroman's the over top help. I mean, so immediately on the streak, it looks like Hobbs bites. I don't understand what he's biting on, but as he's getting vertical, he bites on like this inside route, and then
hold it. Is it 24 or 21? 24 is Mark Zachary. 21 is
then yeah. Sorry, it is 24, so it is Mark Zachary.
Okay.
He's playing in man underneath. Like, he's got the safety over top. There is no reason to bite on anything. Your job is to stay in the hip pocket of the wide receiver and just carry him wherever he goes, knowing you have the safety over the top. So he bites, wide receiver gets a step on him, and now I don't understand what Stroman is doing either, because you don't have anything else besides this guy going on the street. You have another safety on the other side of the field that's helping out with the other corner that's manned up, right? Like, so your literal only job is to get over top of this streak. Both these guys get burned, and then Reed just throws it up, and Texas A&M catches the ball on like the 1 or 2 yard line, and this is at the like 2 minutes into the second quarter, 1st and 10.
The deep ball. Yeah.
The deep ball. Notre Dame is up 17-7 right now, you know? Like, and that's the thing, is the offense would score and then the defense would do nothing to get themselves off the field. And so I have no clue what Zachary is doing, not carrying him man-to-man in the hip pocket. And then Carson Hobbs, Jalen Stroman, where are you at over top? There's just no one there. And so I don't understand how there could be so much confusion in just a man under cover 2 over top. Like, that is a day 1 base install. Your corner's getting beat, and then your safety is nowhere to be found over top. So where is the breakdown in technique? How can these guys not even run man under with safety over top help?
Yeah, I mean, your literal job as the safety in that situation is just to get deep. Anyone who's running down the field, you need to be with them. And unfortunately, he didn't get with him until, right around the goal line, when he was able to, when
so
they were
now,
able to complete the pass.
Texas A&M's 2 biggest plays in the first 15 minutes of the game, Jalen Stroman couldn't come downhill and play man-to-man on Concepcion, and now he can't even play zone over the top with his corner playing, man-to-man underneath. So what can he do at this point? Can't play man, can't play zone over the top. He's got to get off the field, in my opinion. He's just a liability in every form of coverage at this point.
Whiteboard on Tuesday. We're looking at Notre Dame's defensive lapses from Saturday against Texas A&M. We got a couple players there. A couple plays there, rather. We're going to take a time out and then back to hit 1 or 2 more plays before we wrap up this hour, and then rapid fire coming up in hour number 2. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Winding down hour number 1 of Budweiser's Weekday Sportseat with IrishBreakdown.com with Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. We've got a few minutes to go here. We've been doing some whiteboard, looking at where some of Notre Dame's breakdowns came defensively against Texas A&M Saturday. Jesse does the whiteboard. He's doing 2 days a week on the whiteboard for us now. We'll look at some other offensive stuff on Thursday's show. Today is all about the defense, though. So where are we going next here? Let me put this one up on the screen, Jess, and see what we've got. Man, this almost looks like Sideshow Bob or something from The Simpsons based on what you've got drawn up going on here. There's a lot going on here. You've got the ball on the left hash. Texas A&M quarterback Marcel Reed again is in the shotgun. He's got a running back to his right. He's got a tight end on the wing to the left. And then he's got twins right to the field side and the one receiver on the boundary side as well. So where are we going here? I see a lot of deep routes again coming up for Texas A&M. Muted again.
First thing I want to say here is where we're at in the game. Second quarter, about midway through the quarter, ball is on Texas A&M's 39. Notre Dame is up 24-14 in this instance. I forgot. Oh, this is 3rd and 8, by the way. 3rd and 8, you're up 10 points. Texas A&M's on their 39-yard line, trying to get this sucker to halftime. You know, you've had some bad plays. What can we do here? Notre Dame decides to go zone blitz on 3rd and 8 here. I don't mind the scheme of this blitz, actually, and that's kind of why there's so many different lines. I'll get into that first. What happens here is Notre Dame brings 6 guys on the line of scrimmage, and Leonard Moore is the corner pressed onto the wide receiver into the boundary here. So they've got everyone up at the line of scrimmage. It looks like they're just going to probably bring the house. What ultimately happens is your defensive ends kind of rush upfield. Heinisch folds into the center, and then they bring actually a corner blitz with Leonard Moore, and he folds inside. So they end up bringing 4, and they drop 7.
This is also right after Leonard Moore had just come back on the field after his injury, correct?
Correct. But again, another situation here.
Yeah.
Another situation here where they've got 3 guys running a route, and Notre Dame has 7 defenders dropping into coverage.
7 versus 3.
7 versus 3, and they still somehow get burned. And I honestly I probably could have got at least another whiteboard play in, but I spent so much time just rewinding this play because I just couldn't figure out what they were doing to the field side here. Like, I do not know what the coverage was going to the field side here. I know it's zone because immediately what happens is 3 of the linebackers on the line of scrimmage drop into coverage. One linebacker is going to drop to the middle hook to curl zone. Drake Bowen is going to play the other kind of hook to curl zone towards the other side of the field. KVA is the outside defender. He's going to get out and play underneath here in the flat, take away the flat. What happens at the snap of the ball is Texas, and this is a really good play design by Klein and A&M. So I will say that, first of all, this is a really good scheme. I like when teams do this. They bring the outside wide receiver that's on the number in motion, and then on the snap of the ball, they're stacking these wide receivers. So they're stacked. That does a lot to the secondary. They have to communicate. There's another communication. We talked about that. So on the snap of the ball, the upfield wide receiver is going to get vertical, and he's going to press outside towards the numbers. The inside wide receiver that goes in motion is going to kind of run up the seam. I mean, basically, this play is 3rd and 8, 3 verticals. They motion a guy to stack, and then they're just literally running 3 verticals, right? And so I know this is zone because of what the linebackers are doing underneath. And so over here, I have this defensive back circled. This is Christian Gray, number 6. I have no clue what he is doing because what he lets this guy free release right by him. Like you're in zone coverage, but the underneath stuff is taken care of. So your responsibility is to get deep.
Right. That's why the linebackers have dropped off the line of scrimmage.
Right.
To their responsibility is the underneath stuff. So as the corner, just as you said, His job
why is
yeah.
your nose inside into the flat? Like, your job is to carry that wide receiver, especially if they're stemming you vertical. Christian Gray, you played a lot of football. If they're stemming you vertical, like, why are you just letting him free release by you? And that's where I just don't know. Is that technique? Is that scheme? Is that the play call? Does no one know what's going on? But he gets by him, and then the wide receiver basically just sits down in this zone, and Marcel Reed has the easiest pass because Christian Gray lets the wide receiver go. The safety is, bailing out deep. And so there's literally no one in this massive hole just beyond the linebackers. Wide receiver sits down, and it's literally just pitch and catch for Marcel Reed. So I don't know in zone coverage, whenever you got all these linebackers playing underneath, where this is happening, because when this ball is caught, Drake Bowen and KVA are the first guys there to make a tackle. And so I just don't understand why our linebackers are playing better in zone coverage than our corners and safeties. Like, what is he doing? Like, I don't understand what Christian Gray thought was going on. I had to rewind this like 15 times just to be like, what is happening right now?
Scott in the YouTube chat says he rewatched the play a few times, and it looked to him like Gray thought they were in cover 2, and everyone else thought they were.
And that's kind of the conclusion I came to as well. It looks like everyone else thought it was like cover 3, cover 4, and Christian Gray just thinks that, yeah, it's cover 2, so he's got a safety over top, but he needed to get out in quarters. He needed to be one of the guys to get to fight over top, And so as he's fighting over top, and then this wide receiver puts his foot in the ground and hits a 15-yard comeback route, he can break on the ball at that point. But it's just free release, and it's just, I just never seen 3 verticals run so free in a freaking zone coverage. Like, this was cover 3 or cover 4, and they're stemming you with verts. Like, this is the play call. So I don't understand where the breakdown was in Christian Gray's coverage.
Right. So theoretically, this should have been the call to take away exactly what Texas A&M did.
Yeah, they brought a nice pressure off the backside with Leonard Moore folding in on the blitz. Like, I get he came in, after being injured, but it's a nice way to bring 4 guys and it not just be your D lineman. Like, you're bringing in your corner from a different angle. So I thought this schematically looked good. Again, just no clue what Christian Gray was doing on this play.
All right. Well, many breakdowns, unfortunately, for Notre Dame Saturday, and Jesse has covered plenty of them. I don't know, I feel like it's a TKO at this point.
We were coming so hard on the secondary and safeties. I had one last play to get into the linebackers, but
do you have one that you can get through real quickly? Or
I do. I could be real quick with this.
Just a couple minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do it then.
All right. Let me get in here real quick. Let me stop this one. Again, I could not just hate on the secondary all day. That's, everyone kind of had their mistakes here. This play absolutely drove me insane. So 4th quarter, 11 minutes and 17 seconds left, ball on the 39-yard line. It is 3rd and 12. 3rd and 12. Texas A&M is going to run the ball here for 12 yards and they're going to get more than 12. They're going to huge gain on 3rd and 12 running the ball. And I just have no clue what the linebackers are doing on this play because it's the easiest read in all of football. So Marcel Reed is on the right hash. He's got empty set, or at least looks like he's got twins to the right. He's got his tight end split at the wing to the right. So you got trips into the boundary with your tight end, and then to the field side, you have 2 wide receivers split out into the boundary. The number 2 wide receiver is Zach Moss. Marcel Reed is going to motion him into the backfield. Jalen Sneed is out there, number 4. He's man on him. So when he comes in motion, he now enters.
Jaden Osbury.
Osbury. He now comes into the box. So immediately Marcel Reed knows, okay, at least they're in man coverage because Osbury's following him. On the snap of the ball on 3rd and 12 here, Notre Dame blitzes 5. No idea why. It's 3rd and 12. Okay, let's blitz 5. They bring the linebacker up the middle. And so immediately what happens here is tackle, guard, center, and right tackle are going to down block. The right guard and the tight end are going to pull to the left. Osbury, no clue what happens here, but he's got to scrape over top. And if he does, he makes this tackle literally on the end of the line of scrimmage. Like, this play is funneling to him. The guard and the tight end are pulling in front of his face. Like, there is no bigger red flag alert that the ball is going that direction when the guard and the tight end are pulling that direction. You know, like I don't know as a linebacker what else you could read in this instance. So Osbury is late to read it. He gets caught up in the mix. Instead of scraping over top, Zach Moss takes this, and it's an easy run, you know, for I think like 30, 40 yards on a freaking 3rd and 12 play where you blitz 5 and your linebacker can't read a pulling guard and tight end right in front of his face.
All right. Well, just more misery, I guess. Is
That was the point of this today, right? We had to highlight schematically where things broke down.
That is something so simple though, and that's what's baffling.
How do you not read that? Like that is day
Right.
one basic read, guard pulling in front of your face.
Because if they're pulling
down the line of scrimmage,
if they're pulling, your responsibility as the linebacker is to go in that direction. Like
correct.
The only way that you would not end up going in that direction is if they do something misdirection and go back the other way. But you've got to follow the pulling guard. But that's obviously not what he did.
And so the only grace I'd give Osbury is obviously he's backside on the play, and Notre Dame blitzing the inside linebacker doesn't help because he's your like those two are supposed to funnel the play to each other essentially.
What do you think about the blitzes that you've seen from Ash so far? Like the way he blitzes, the kind of blitzes he has called compared to like what Al Golden used to do.
I think they like at least with Al Golden's blitzes, they would get home. Like we said, he would probably blitz way too often. But the thing about it is Notre Dame just isn't winning enough one-on-one. They're not winning enough in one-on-one pass coverage, and they're not winning in one-on-one pass rushing. That's a recipe for disaster if your blitzes can't get home, the quarterback has all day, and then you have breakdown in technique in the secondary. So, the scheme isn't putting the players in the right position. But Notre Dame also just isn't winning enough one-on-one. And so I like that you just can't have that, And so, again, we criticized Golden for probably blitzing too much, rightfully so. But at least the pressure was in the quarterback's face. At least the quarterback was getting hit or getting knocked down or had to make a quick throw. Now it's nothing. They're bringing pressure. They're not getting actual pressures. They're not getting sacks. They're not getting QB hits. And so it's just a waste. You're bringing guys for no reason at that point.
All right, good whiteboard stuff. As always, we'll take a break. When we come back, rapid fire, a lot of topics coming up. Hour number 2, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It is hour number 2 of Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com, and that can mean only one thing. It's rapid fire time. Jesse, are you ready to rock and roll?
I am ready to rock and roll. I'm done with the hopefully as all the negativity. You know, it's like so hard sometimes.
I'll be the judge of that.
As a fan, it's like you want to be positive, but then like we've been talking about, you rewatch some of this film and it's like, man, what is just going on?
It's tough. It's tough. It is. Let's switch to the offense. We haven't talked offensive side of the ball very much at all yesterday or today. We had a short show yesterday, and of course we spent the pretty much most of the first hour talking about the defense. So we saw Notre Dame run the wildcat a few times against Texas A&M Saturday. Marcus Freeman talked at his press conference on Monday about the benefit of doing those direct snaps to the running back versus a short yardage package that might include backup quarterback Kenny Minchie. And here's what he said about that.
If you're truly going to commit to running the ball in that situation, then Jeremiah Love, or one of our running backs, is going to be a better runner than anybody with the ball in their hands. But, you know, Kenny Minchie gives you another asset of being able to throw it and run it. And again, C.J. Carr isn't a dud. He can run, you know, if we need him to run. But I don't know if you love your quarterback taking those hits in some of those short yardage situations. And that's not to discredit Riley, like we didn't care about Riley, you know. But again, it's the creativity that you have to have, but also it's the production that you believe that package or that play is going to have. And it was pretty productive on Saturday. We'll see what wrinkles that we have for this upcoming week.
All right. It was pretty productive for the most part. It was a new wrinkle that we saw. We've seen some people kind of asking for it. So what do you think, especially when you talk about, would you rather do that, or would you rather just bring a quarterback like Minchie off the bench for his own package where he has essentially run pass options versus a running back who is pretty much just going to run every time?
No, I don't mind the wildcat look at all. I think that, you know, there were just a couple of times where the play broke down. I think that's where I've heard a lot of the griping is it just felt like that's what they were doing every time. The couple of times that they got stopped, there was one time where there was just blown assignment on the blocking side of things. And the other side, there was another one where Jeremiah Love just, in that situation, he just needs to get vertical now. And one of the times he was trying to press the edge and beat the defender. And it's just like, listen, you're Jeremiah Love. We have a really good offensive line. You just need to press the situation and get up in there and know that you can get basically 1 yard. So my complaint with the look is you have to have some sort of variation off of it. You can't just keep running the same thing over and over. And that's where I'm a little bit frustrated with Denbrock, because he has to know that. Like, when you run it in the first and second quarter, cool. Like, you're going to catch them off guard because they haven't practiced for it. But like we've talked about before, defenses come off and they talk about it and they get on a board and they start, okay, here's how we're going to fix this. And so by that time, Notre Dame needed to have maybe like a jet come off of it where Jeremiah Love like catches it and hands it off to Faison going in jet motion. Like,
or just fake it. Like, yes. get you know, like you've talked about, some eye candy. Get the eyes, get the linebackers and the defensive backs' eyes looking in one direction, and then maybe Jeremiah Love does, or Jadarian Price does something else.
And so or maybe you go two back in that situation and Jeremiah Love is out there and he just hands the ball and puts it in Price's belly. You know, like, that's not hard for a running back to do, but just there has to be something, like you said, to get the defense looking in a different direction or you know, worrying about what their assignment is going to be, because the more you just run out there and do the same thing over and over, you're going to run into issues. So I don't mind the overall concept of the play, but I just want to see more variation off of it.
Yeah.
And I've told you before, like, Mike Denbrock has to have something more in his bag than just one play for every short down situation. Like, you make a living as an offensive coordinator by how creative you can get on 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, you know, at the goal line, that sort of thing, where you need short yardage plays and you just got to out scheme the other team, basically.
Yeah, I didn't love it on the 4th and 1 at the 48-yard line. Now, granted, it got stopped and it led to a Texas A&M field goal. But like to Josh's point in the YouTube chat, by my count, they ran it 7 times. Josh says it worked like twice for positive yardage. Not so fast, my friend. Maybe you had a few too many beverages Saturday night, because it actually got stuffed twice. The first time they ran it was on
4th and 1.
First and goal at the 5, and Jeremiah Love gets stopped. He actually gets dropped for a 2-yard loss on that play, and then Jadarian Price scores a touchdown from the 7 yards out the next play. But then the next time it's 4th and 1 at the 8. Love gains 4 yards on it. The next time, 2nd and 10, and Jadarian Price gains 3. That was the only time Price ran it. 1st and 10, Love gains 3 again. Then it's 4th and 1 at the 48. You see, and by this time, to your point about the options, okay, it's 4th and 1 at the 48. You've already run it 5 times at that point. And so you're taking away any option, like everyone knows at this point, Jeremiah.
There's no element of surprise.
Yeah, there's zero surprise. And so they stuff him, as you said, maybe a bad block. But then they ran it twice on the final touchdown drive. 1st and 10, they gained 6. On 4th and 1, they also gained 6. So, I mean, they ran it, they gained positive yards all but 2 different times. And unfortunately, it was the one very crucial time where it got stuffed on 4th and 1 near midfield.
You know what Marcus Freeman would say, though, because they did it so well majority of the time, that falls in the execution bucket. Because if you can do it on back-to-back plays for 6 yards, inside the goal line to take the lead with, like 2-3 minutes left, why can't you do it every other play? And so, I mean, that play is last year's version of Riley Leonard QB power.
Yeah.
Like, let's just be 100% honest about it. Like, that's what it is. You're giving the ball to who you think is the best player for 1 yard. And last year, that was Riley Leonard. This year, they think that's Jeremiah Love.
Right. But is the offensive line good enough to block consistently enough to do anything out of it? Again, like, just to clarify the math, they ran it 7 times. It gained at least 3 yards 5 of the 7 times. So that, like, if you just look at that, that is successful. Now, you've shown everybody else the rest of the season what you're going to do. So the question is, do you have wrinkles off it? And for that reason, I would almost rather just have a Kenny Minchey package where he can factor either in the run game or be able to pull it and throw the ball and hit somebody. Personally,
I'm not ready for the Minchey package yet.
You're not ready for a Minchey package just yet, huh?
Nope.
Okay.
I think it's easy to blow up an RPO mesh. And if they bring the house and blow up the mesh point, I think that's just bad news bears for Kenny Minchey.
Okay. I can see that. That's a lot. That's leaning very heavily on the Wildcat. And I understand what you're saying. Get the ball in your best player's hand. Okay. But I would almost rather just hand him the football, where at least there can be some element of surprise where CJ Carr can fake a handoff to Jeremiah Love, pull it, throw it, run himself. Like, that's something that we didn't see factored into the game plan this week at all, was CJ Carr as a factor in the run game. Maybe he got hit too much in the first game against Miami and they didn't want to take that chance anymore. But that was not an element that Notre Dame had in the offense this week.
Did I tell you my parlay? Everything hit but the Notre Dame money line this past weekend.
That's factoring the money line into your parlays, I think, is the worst strategy. If you're gonna throw a bunch of different props together,
where did this come from?
I would stick with player props because it's not dependent on the outcome of the game. Like, if I had bet all the player props that we were talking about last week, I would have hit all of them and not factored, the outcome of the game into it.
Yeah. Hindsight is easy as a 6.5 point favorite.
Stay away from it. So here are CJ Carr's numbers through 2 games passing. He's thrown for 514 yards, completed 63% of his passes, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Both of them, by the way, both interceptions, deflections, of course. Now we can talk about, whether or not they were wise choices, to throw either one, but they were both deflected still. But here is Marcus Freeman on Carr's response after these first two losses.
As solid as any individual I've been around. He is, this moment isn't too big for him. He has made some really, really great plays. There's plays in both games that he knows that he wishes he could do over. But, I mean, CJ Carr is going to be an unbelievable player. He is doing great things for our offense right now. And as I told him yesterday when I met with him, the ceiling I have for CJ Carr is extremely high. And he's doing things right now that are really, really good. I'm talking about really good. But sometimes he needs to hear how great he can be. I mean, he can be really special.
All right, so there you go from Marcus Freeman. CJ Carr, Jesse, has been blank.
CJ Carr has been everything and more, in my opinion. We talked about this at the beginning of the show during Stock Up and Stock Down. CJ Carr, every week, his stock just continues to trend upwards. You know, for a guy that is making his first career starts against two ranked teams, against really solid teams, he has done more than expected in my eyes. And he has, I have never once felt like CJ Carr has been detrimental or, you know, a reason why they're not succeeding. I mean, the offense is putting up really good numbers against really good teams, and you would not know that CJ Carr is a young quarterback. And I'll even go to say, I think CJ Carr and this is, you know, maybe this is the homer in me, but I'm going to get up on this pedestal and say it right now. All the teams coming into the season, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, all these teams had a common denominator of young quarterbacks making their first time starts. I think CJ Carr has been the best young quarterback in the country to take over program like high caliber programs. And I don't even think it's close at the end of the day. I think he's playing better than Arch Manning. I think he's playing better than Julian Sayon. I think he's playing better than Bryce Underwood.
Say it right.
And the thing is,
there's no O in saying.
The thing is, at the end of the day, no one has had to play near the level of competition that CJ Carr has. So not only is he playing better, but he's also playing better competition. So I love CJ Carr, and he's going to be a really good quarterback for Notre Dame for hopefully 3 seasons.
Yeah, or at least 2, just depending on how quickly he does ascend. I mean, if you need proof that a quarterback's record as a starter is overrated, just see the first 2 games that CJ Carr has played, because he's unfortunately just been completely overshadowed by the poor play of Notre Dame's defense. They were down by 2 touchdowns against Miami. He leads them back into a tie game twice. They're trailing at Texas A&M late in the game. He leads them first on a field goal drive and then on a 12-play, 75-yard touchdown drive to take the lead with under 3 minutes to go. Like, he can't do much more. Yeah, to Ace 45, 4ND's point, can he play corner as well? No, he can't. And, you know, like, again, what Notre Dame's defense is doing is completely overshadowing the fact that CJ Carr has been at completely as advertised, if not even more, based on what he's done so far, as a guy who's only started 2 games in his career, and he's done it against ranked teams as well. He's not getting a break-in period against Villanova or Indiana State or Florida International or any of these other teams. You know, if the defense just plays half as well as they played last year, CJ Carr is a national headline right now that we're talking about how the first-time starter led the Irish to back-to-back wins over ranked teams to begin his career. And that's like, he's put the team in the place and walked off the field in the place that he needed to put them in. He's done his job. Now it's time for the other side of the ball to start playing complementary and, you know, help him live up to that, help the whole team live up to that.
Yeah, it's just really like the kid has ice in his veins. Against Miami, he leads a drive to go tie the game, and against Texas A&M, he leads the drive to go win it, both under 5 minutes remaining in the game. You know, like he just doesn't blink. And I honestly feel like as the pressure or the moment enhances, so does his game. Like, his game rises to the occasion. And, you know, I saw something, and I think this will tie nicely to a comment in the chat as well between the parallels. I saw something that a lot of players in the Dallas secondary was apologizing to Dak Prescott in the locker room after the game for their horrible coverage. I think the Notre Dame secondary needs to go in there and tell CJ Carr, like, same thing, man. He is, as a young guy, he is doing nothing but putting them in situations to win and and now both games, the Notre Dame defense, specifically the secondary, has let him down.
Yeah. Swandong says saw a lot of parallels with the Notre Dame defense and the Cowboys defense. I talked about this yesterday. I know you weren't here, but basically watched the same game 2 days in a row. The difference was the Cowboys have a kicker who can, probably kick a
Good
field
from
goal
70.
40-yard line. Yeah, that's right. All right, we ran behind in the first hour, so I got to get into this break because we still got this break and another one to go before we wrap up the show here in about a half an hour or so. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat and Rapid Fire with IrishBreakdown.com continues next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com, and Rapid Fire continues on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Hope you're having a good one wherever you happen to be. Sean Kelly in the YouTube chat asks, what are our thoughts on CJ Carr apparently tipping run and pass with his feet alignment? I don't know if you've seen this, Jesse, but CJ Carr took the snap 64 times. I believe it was. I believe that was the number. 64 times he took the snap. When he handed off, when it was a running play, his feet were parallel. When it was a passing play, he had a staggered stance. And so he was tipping it off. So my thoughts are, it obviously didn't matter very much against Texas A&M, because Notre Dame scored 40 points. Obviously, 7 of it was by a block punt, that Tay Johnson scored a touchdown on. But he again, CJ Carr led the offense down the field, 12-play, 75-yard touchdown drive with a little bit less than 3 minutes to go. So it didn't matter much against Texas A&M, but for the long haul of the season, this is a minor correction. It's easy to get corrected, but he's got to get it corrected because now it's on film and everyone's going to see it. It becomes a much bigger issue, I think, than if it was reported as soon as it was after the game. What do you think, Jess?
Yeah, so 2 thoughts on here. And I think that, first of all, you just can't do that. That's kind of elementary in my opinion. And you got to get it fixed because at least that takes the linebackers out of it. Essentially, they know immediately, if they need to drop into pass or, fill at the line of scrimmage. So you're losing anything in terms of RPO play action to kind of, draw in the linebackers and safety. So that's not good. But to the flip side of this is and this is kind of, I guess, maybe known a little bit, but there's a lot of tendencies in football where you kind of know what's going to happen. And this comes back to the execution side of things. And I think Freeman would say the same thing is it doesn't matter if the other team knows we could still execute this thing how we're supposed to and the play be successful. So for me, it's kind of embarrassing that the defense kind of couldn't do better if they actually knew if it was run or pass at the end of the day. And that's kind of where I'll leave that one.
Yeah. Going back to, we were talking about Wildcat versus, maybe a Kenny Minchie package. And I saw this comment by Tommy that I didn't get until we were on to the next topic. Tommy says, Riley Leonard was 230 plus pounds. Love is what, 205? Actually incorrect, Tommy. People vastly overestimate just how big Riley Leonard is. He was only 215 pounds last year. The guy was very thin. He was just very durable and very tough. They are both 215 pounds. Jeremiah Love right now is 215 pounds. Riley Leonard last year was 215 pounds. You're just talking about a guy, Leonard, whose weight is distributed a little bit differently because he is so tall. But he's not as thick as a lot of people seem to think that he was. I'm like, CJ Carr is about the same right now, for that matter. So anyway, Notre Dame fell to number 21, Jess, in the coaches poll this week, number 24 in the AP poll. Do you buy or sell them still being ranked with an 0-2 record?
Yeah, I mean, I do buy them being ranked because no one in the country has played a tougher schedule than Notre Dame, and it's not like they've looked incompetent. Well, I mean, we could get into the defensive side of the ball again, but they haven't looked completely incompetent. They're not losing in blowout fashion. They're not, again, they lost the first game by 3 and the second game by 1 against now 2 top 10 opponents. And, basically what I saw, and I think what would help justify this, you take the top 25, you play at a neutral site, I guarantee Notre Dame is the favorite in at least 50% of those games. And
I would say that, yeah.
If you think Notre Dame shouldn't be ranked, look at who they've played, look at how they've lost, but also look at how their talent and team would stack up against the current top 25. You play at a neutral site. Notre Dame is going to be a spread favorite, and again, at least 50% of those matchups. I would say probably every game outside of the top 10. And even the games in the top 10 would be a toss-up because look at how those games have ended. I mean, what is Miami ranked now, 4 or 5? Again, a game that came down to the last possession, Texas A&M, a game that comes down to the last possession. So I think, again, even if they weren't the favorites against, some of the top 10, it would be really close spread or just about even odds.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is nobody else has played 2 ranked teams right now. Like, nobody in the top 25 has played 2 ranked teams, like Penn State and Indiana. They haven't even played a Power 4 team yet. And, they're both ranked. So, it's not just record, it's also who you've played. And that's what Notre Dame faced coming into the season. They knew they were going to have their 2 toughest games at the start of the season. Now it's on them to go out and win games that they're going to be favored in for the rest of the season, because there's probably, depending on how things go these next couple of weeks, there's probably only one game where there's any chance that they wouldn't be favored the rest of the year. And I'm not saying they won't be, that they won't be favored in that game. I'm talking about USC, just depending on where both teams are when they get to the middle of October. I think that's the only game that there's any chance the other team would be favored over Notre Dame. They're going to be favored pretty much the rest of the way. So, yeah, I've got no problem with them being in the top 25. It's just a matter of going out and starting to win some games now. Ace 454 ND says, someone's telling stories. Leonard looked like the love Chick-fil-A a bit too much. I don't know what does that mean? The love Chick-fil-A. You're saying Riley Leonard looked big? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm not too sure.
Why is your video off, by the way?
I hurt my shoulder here for a second, so I've been kind of wincing in pain a little bit. But I think what the overall rationale is like people aren't buying that Love and Leonard are like.
Oh, he's saying he looked big. He looked like he loved Chick-fil-A. I'm telling you, man, I've stood next to him. Riley Leonard still is very thin. He is a very thin guy. He is not thick at all. Like, I realized he was wearing, shoulder pads, and, they, like, on the quarterbacks, they put those rib protectors on him and stuff like that, so it makes them look a little bit thicker. He is a very thin guy. He is built like a shooting guard is what he is built like. Like, remember, he wanted to be a basketball
little small forward action.
High school. Yeah, like, he's not a thick guy. He's not. So I think maybe
they're just built different. Love is more, compact, muscle, mass, right? Leonard's just a little bit taller and a little bit more, stringy. I just think people don't realize how tough Riley Leonard was and how much, the thing about Riley Leonard is he just had no regard. So he played like someone was big because he was willing to throw his body into any situation.
Yeah. Again, you can bend him, you can twist him, you can shake him, you can bake him and do all that stuff. And he took a licking and kept on getting up and kept on playing. Okay. I've got to find this cut here for the next one. Did you get to see any of the Clemson Georgia Tech game Saturday afternoon?
No, I was at a golf outing and I didn't.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about your charity golf outing. That's right. So during the Clemson Georgia Tech game, the ACC allowed the ESPN broadcast to go behind the scenes to allow viewers to see and hear what the replay officials were seeing and discussing during instant replay reviews. So like you would have the guy down on the field with the headset looking under the hood, and he would be talking to the booth. Here's an example of a touchdown they were looking at. I'll let you hear what they were talking about.
Yes, hey, Adam. This is Adam. The ruling on the field is a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you 2 shots. I'm gonna show you the handheld. This is the handheld right here, and you can see he's got a body part down, but his ball is pinned against his lower leg right there with the tops of his hands.
Keep going.
And then he's out there, right? And then he's still fumbling with that ball.
Okay, on that shot right there.
And then he gets control, but he's clearly out.
Do you see a loss of control with a foot in the white?
I don't think he has control there.
I agree with you.
You can see this that we don't believe he has control at all. By the time he has control, he's out of bounds.
Yeah, he's way out.
Hey, take a look at high end zone real quick.
High end zone, all right.
Not C. Go to multi.
Go to A.
High end zone. Never lose the ball.
Guys, I've got enough on that sideline shot to show no control, incomplete pass.
I would agree. I would agree.
Okay, so after further review, the pass was incomplete. It's going to be second down at the 2-yard line on the left hash.
Yes, correct.
Clock is good.
Second and goal at the 2. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. So, of course, while all that discussion is going on, we're getting to see the replays. We're seeing them, like dialing all this different stuff. Jesse, do you buy or sell this becoming a standard part of every football broadcast?
I buy it because I think there's so much uncertainty by fans. And I think that it's gotten to the point now where we want to see kind of the transparency of what's going on the call, right? Like every fan is just not going to trust the process that is going into making these decisions. So the more transparent they are about the communication, what they're looking at, I just think that is going to lead to more, satisfied fans at the end of the day, or fans kind of less claiming blown calls or,
right,
biasy and that sort of stuff.
And I think the biggest advantage to all of this is if you do this, if you, literally lift the mask, lift the, the cover off the hood, however you want to say it. If you do more of this, you don't need the rules analyst anymore. And the rules analyst isn't telling us any more than we can already see most of the time anyway. Like he's trying to give some convoluted explanation either while it's going on or after it goes on, and they make the call. And again, he's not stepping out on a limb very often and really, like telling you what he thinks he's going to be, because like Mike Carey a few years back, they don't want to be wrong. If you just do this and give us transparency, show us what they're talking about, show us what they're looking at, you don't need the rules analyst. And I think that this is a lot more explanatory and a lot more entertaining to actually see what they're watching. And as you said, you lose all the conspiracy theories doing it that way. You don't have, like all the NFL, they're just, trying to favor the Chiefs and all this different stuff. You don't have any of that anymore. If you just do this, I think it's perfect. Josh says, are they going to do it in targeting? I mean, so far, the ACC is the only ones allowing anything, but I would be all for that. I mean, targeting is a completely different story anyway. We got to take one more time out, and then we're back to wrap up Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat and Rapid Fire with IrishBreakdown.com. Winding down Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Rapid fire. Had plenty of topics. We've got 2 left here, Jesse, and we've only got about 4-ish minutes. Which one do you want to hit? You got to take yourself off mute, bud.
Probably.
I want to stop hitting that button on the mic and just use the one on the screen.
Defense. I love that you call it out every time.
Well, you're talking. There's nothing I can do. Like, what do you want me to do? You're talking and no sound is coming out. Which one do you want to talk about?
Dealer's choice.
All right, let's go with this. Fill in the blank. There was an off-season vote on Philadelphia's tush push, and they decided to keep it. On Sunday, Eagles ran it a couple of times against the Chiefs, and it's blank that their offensive lineman false started, but were not flagged for it.
To me, it's just absolutely absurd at this point, because when we talked about this question in the offseason, I didn't think the play should be banned. Basically, standing on that it's an NFL play. You've had plenty of time. The play never changes. You should be able to adapt or run your own kind of similar type play. But I've changed my mind, because at this point, the play has become a liability because referees can't officiate it properly. And so not only are the Eagles players getting a head start, basically a false start, but their players are also lining up in the neutral zone of the defense. And so there's 2 penalties occurring just about every play. And so I think the play needs to be banned if it's not going to be officiated properly, because you're getting too much of an advantage for a play that already has been deemed unstoppable. You
could hear us, right, Tommy? Like, Tommy's calling me out in the chat because we had the screensaver up. I was trying, like, the audio portion of the show is more important than seeing our golden faces, I think. But I agree with what Jesse is saying. Like, if you're going to let them do this, because, like when they were looking at it, the rules analyst was talking about, I'm done with this tush push, because it's like, if you're letting the guards jump off sides, literally you're letting them false start, get a head start, then of course you're going to be successful. It's already the toughest play to stop to begin with, because of the fact that, as a lot of people will say, it's not a football play. It's basically a rugby scrum, and you're just pushing guys forward like that. If you're going to do that, look, if the camera can see down the line and see where guys are lined up and see where they're jumping, the official has to be able to see it as well, because I've heard, it's tough to see. Well, if that's the case with all these guys, then you're going to have to ban it. I think they're going to vote for it next offseason, and it's going to ultimately end up being banned. Like, you've got to call it right. Like you were texting me when we were talking about it over the weekend. You were talking about how Mishawaka used to do that when you would play
the same thing.
Their offensive linemen, I love Keith Kinder, but their linemen were always, wasn't it the tackles in that case? Weren't they always going before the center?
It was like a half second, split second before, but when a team's running a triple option and looking to literally get 3 yards per play, like, that's a huge advantage. You're getting that initial get off and push in a play where, again, you are literally only trying to get 1 to 3 yards.
So again, what we're saying, Joe, because I was like, okay, other teams can run it too, stop it. But if you're literally letting offensive linemen get a head start before the ball is snapped, that is a penalty. You have to call the penalty. You can't let I don't
care about the play itself, just officiate it properly.
Officiate it properly is what we're saying. If you're going to let them do it, you have to officiate it properly, and it's not being officiated properly is the problem.
It's really funny because
tonight we've got to go. So we will we've got Wake Up the Echoes, or the Echoes, coming up here in just a few minutes. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. See you.